Rusty, dusty, and underwater. Not really what you want to be thinking about when talking about model trains.
Is that a piece of grass?
Have I bit off more than I can chew? This GG1 is any train repairman's worst nightmare. Can I fix it? Let's see if I can get it back on the rails. Hey guys, Sid from Sid's Trains here, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. In today's video, we're going to be checking out this Lionel, Pennsylvania JLC GG1. This GG1 has a bit of a story because, well, it's water damaged. I picked this GG1 up at the York Train Show in York, Pennsylvania this past April, along with another engine from Trains and Things in New Jersey. Trains and Things is an amazing store, and Tony, the owner, was very kind in explaining to me what had happened to these engines, and he gave me a very good deal because, well, they're water damaged. And to most people, and pretty much anyone that is looking to just buy a model, they're not looking for something like this. This engine is kind of past the state of running, and it's not something that you can just take off the shelf and run because there's corrosion, there's rust, there's dirt, all kinds of things. And I don't even really know if it works all that well. I know that it does turn on a bit. Some of the lights will turn on and it might do a couple things, but I don't know if this thing will even run. And so that's why no one else had really thought about it when it was at the show. But I walked past it with my dad and I saw it and I was like, that is something that would be interesting to try and restore and get back on the rails. So with all that said, let's see if I can take this engine and get it back on the rails. There's rust, there's corrosion, all kinds of stuff going on. And let's take a closer look at this engine and examine, see if it'll even do anything. And then we'll go out to my workbench and see if we can get this engine back in operating condition and looking a little better than it is now because, well, kind of looks like crap. Okay, so I got it here on the track and let's apply some power and see if anything happens with this engine. Look at that. Oh wow, I just heard there's all kinds of things happening right now. So the headlight is on, which is good. So for anyone who does not know, this engine is equipped with Lionel TMCC control and Rail Sounds 5. And then these pantographs are actually operational, so they go up and down using little motors. So right now the engine is doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is just sitting here without moving or doing anything because it's not being given a command. But let me see if the engine will do anything. I'm gonna just guess that this engine is engine 1 because it probably was just set that from the factory, no one ever changed it. But let's see. Oh wow. Oh wow. There's all kinds of things happening. It looks like the engine is turned on. I think the sounds might be turned down. Let me see if I can turn them up. Oh wow, look at that. Yeah, the sounds were just turned down. I'm increasing the volume here. Yeah, the sounds were turned down. So I'm just going to leave them right about there. But let's see if the sounds work. Sounds seem to be working. Let's try the crew talk.
Pennsylvania 4876. We're ready to roll. Over. NC 4876. You are clear ahead. Take the green. Over.
This is awesome.
Roger that. We are good to go. Over.
That's awesome that the sounds are working. I definitely am going to have to still open this thing up and check everything because there's probably corrosion on the inside, so I definitely wouldn't advise doing this. But I did pop the top off before I turned this thing on just to look inside to see if there was any kind of notable issues. These two hatches will pop off and you can look on the inside. And I didn't notice anything too bad, so I was like, let's see if this thing will work. Currently, the engine is in forward, so this back pantograph should be up right now. Oh, no, look at that. Look at that. It seemed to be stuck. Now, if I change directions, this one should go down, and this one should come up. So let's see if that works. Interesting. That one went up. Okay, now it's going down. Interesting. Let me put it back and forward. Yeah, there seems to be some kind of issue with that pantograph back there, which makes sense. There's all kinds of rust on these pantographs, corrosion. The little motors on the inside could be gunked up, but this is insane that this thing is water damaged and rusty like this, and yet it's working. Let's try and change directions again. Yeah, this one, there seems to be some issues with, yep. Yeah, there's definitely some issues. I think this one actually should be working. Maybe there's some, there's all kinds of sounds happening. I believe there's some connections that are probably not very good on the inside, so the board is probably not knowing what to do. There's switches to control things, so let's not do anything more, and let's take this thing apart and see what's going on the inside. Before we actually go out to my workbench, I noticed something with these couplers. Watch this. There's like dust and smoke coming out. Look at that. I believe that's a mix of corrosion and possibly some smoke because it's probably not functioning very well. Just look at that. Gosh, that's insane. I think it's mainly corrosion. If there was some kind of short causing the smoke, I think all the lights would be flickering and I'd be seeing some issues on my transformer. But I believe this is just dust being pushed out by the solenoid when I throw the coupler. Yeah, that's insane. And yeah, this coupler's kind of stuck open. I think, yeah, now it's unstuck. Yeah. It's a smoking coupler. That's a new Vision Line feature. Smoking couplers. No, that's crazy. Just look. Okay, enough of me goofing around with this smoking or dusty coupler. Let's take this out to the workbench and see what I can find on the inside. So here we are out at the workbench, and man, this thing is just crusty looking. There's all kinds of dirt. I believe some mineral deposits and things like that. There's of course some scratches and things from probably it being stored horribly. This pantograph is kind of sideways. It's kind of hard to see, but you see this end sticking up a little farther than this end. You can also kind of get a good look at all the rust that's on top of the springs and the dirt on top of this engine. It's crazy how the condition of this engine is, and like I said earlier, these pop off on top, these little hatches, and this allowed me to kind of look down in here and just examine things and make sure things aren't too bad. I will say there's the volume pot on top, and it's probably hard to see, but down inside of the volume pot, it's a little bit rusty. So yeah, there's definitely some kind of worrisome things to be looking at on a model train. Like, you never want to see rust on modern day electronics and model trains, but it's kind of a miracle that this thing still works. But I'm going to flip this thing over and carefully remove some screws. It looks like there's still some foam under here from packaging. Possibly this foam always bugs me, and trying to get it out is kind of a pain sometimes, but there we go. There's about, I don't know, I think 6 or so screws that hold this shell on. There's definitely going to be some struggle getting these off, but let me get all this off, and we'll see what's on the inside. So I got the shell open here, and man, what a mess it looks like in here. All the electronics look to be in okay shape. All the wiring seems pretty decent, but there's just like
dirt and mineral deposits and corrosion and rust everywhere. Like, look on the side of this smoke unit. There's just this kind of rough, kind of corrosion dust. It's kind of just rubbing off on my finger there. Yeah, this is rough. I'm just probably gonna have to take a bunch of rubbing alcohol to a bunch of the components in here just to get things clean, and possibly even use some rust remover on things. Honestly, it might not be as bad as I'm thinking, but there's just so much of this kind of corrosion and mineral deposits, even on the inside of the shell. It may be hard to see, but there's just stuff everywhere. Luckily, it seems all the boards work, at least to some extent. I'm gonna have to check out the smoke unit to make sure it still works fine. There's definitely a lot going on here, so this is going to be a bit of a project getting this all back in working order. So I've gotten the pantographs removed here, and these are the main kind of features of this engine, are these pantographs, and these things are looking a little rough. This one might be hard to tell, but it's bent. It's kind of got this U-shaped look to it. It must have been sat on or something, or really pushed down. They should look more like this, but both of them have serious rust issues on the springs. But they do still move, and I think with some lubrication and some adjustment of some of these tabs and whatnot, I should be able to get these working. But you can also see the shell is just disgusting. There's so much dirt on here. Definitely needs a cleaning. When I was first opening up the engine, you probably saw these steps. I had to bend them out. I'm going to have to bend them some more to get them right. But I think I'll now be able to look at all these switches in here. The pantographs use these little cherry reed switches, or the chuff switches, or what are similar to chuff switches in Lionel steam engines from the TMCC era. To create the chuff, they use very similar switches for the pantographs to know when to stop. And I think these aren't adjusted properly, because this one's in the center, and yeah, there's definitely some issues with adjustment. But I think the next thing is to get cleaning and fixing on some of the pantograph components. Yeah, oh my god, look at that. There's this little piece of kind of grass, wood, dirt, whatever this is, that was on top of the engine. This is, yeah, we need to get to cleaning on this engine. And here's one of the pantographs that I've cleaned decently well. There's still some mineral deposits and spots. I'm going to clean them just a little bit more, but most of the rust is off of these springs, and I did remove them, and I used a little bit of rust inhibitor to make sure that they don't rust any more than they already are. It's okay if they have a little bit of a pitted look, but this pantograph is working pretty well. I still need to let some of the alcohol dry and clean off anything else that is left. But this is really the idea, is just cleaning off all this gunk and stuff and getting them into more working condition. So now the pantographs are cleaned off. I'm going to just start cleaning everything on this engine, from the chassis all the way to the top of the shell. I'm going to clean everything. Everything is really dirty. There's rust, there's corrosion, there's just everything known to man when it comes to dirt and corrosion and things like that. So I'm going to flip this chassis over. You can see there's rust on the pickup rollers, rust on the side of the wheels, corrosion and dirt in the gears, rusty axles. The side of the smoke unit, like I said before, is just disgusting. I got to redo the smoke unit. There's plugs that aren't looking too good, so I'm going to clean everything, maybe redo some of the wiring. It looks like some of these plugs up here, some of the connections aren't very good, so I'm going to make sure everything is all good. I'm going to check all the connections up in the shell here, and hopefully cleaning everything will restore all the function of the pantographs, lighting, and I never did check movement on this engine, but judging by the underside of this chassis, moving it probably would have caused these pickup rollers to spin, and there's so much rust it probably wouldn't have gotten good electrical contact. So let's see if I can get all this clean and make this engine work again. And now we've reached the spot on working on this engine that I really like when working on trains in general, is working on the smoke units. I love rebuilding them, and so you saw me cleaning out the fan and making it work, cleaning off the casing. Obviously, I could polish all of this, but I'm not trying to make this look super pretty. This will be on the inside, and you'll never see this. The fan does work, and I cleaned it out and put some oil on the output shaft to make it nice and quiet. And if I take a 9-volt battery, it's nice and quiet now, and so I'm going to redo the batting, and I'm going to do a little bit of a modification. Is just get rid of this kind of sheathing that's on the, or this kind of sheath kind of covering that's on the heating element itself. I never really understood why Lionel put these. I believe it had to do something to do with preventing charring on the element, but it's not. I don't really think that's going to be an issue. I could drill out the hole for the intake, but I don't think that's really necessary on this engine. It's a GG1. It doesn't need to smoke like crazy like a steam engine. I'm also going to just take some rubbing alcohol here and just clean off the PCB some. Nothing crazy. It's just getting rid of dirt and kind of neutralizing any kind of dirt or rust that's on here. Like I said before, and you could take this engine down to bare frame, and it would then be like almost a flawless engine when you put it back together. And maybe someday I will do that, or maybe I'll do that with another engine. But this engine, I just want to see in kind of usable condition and see it running on the rails again. So, well, I'm going to let that dry there. I'm going to put the new batting into the smoke bowl here and get it all packed in there. Just going to use some generic smoke fluid here. Just going to prime the unit here. And I know some people don't like smoke, and if you don't like smoke, you don't have to use it. That's why they have the on-off switches. But I like having engines have all their functions working properly, including smoke, so I'm reinstalling all the parts to make this work. And I'm really excited to see this engine come back to life. The GG1 is such a neat engine, and I'm just going to adjust some stuff there. It's such a neat engine, so when this engine does come back to life here in a few minutes, it's going to be awesome, and I really hope it functions properly, because if it doesn't, well, there might be some struggles per se trying to get it to work, because these engines can be kind of a bit of a pain to work on with the pantographs, but it's a good sign that they were working before. And I'm going to stop rambling on here and get back to working on cleaning off the rest of this engine and getting it back on the rails. So the running gear is cleaning up pretty well. I'm putting on some grease right now. I need to clean off. I got some on the sides of the truck here, but it's cleaning up pretty well. Most of the rust has come off the wheels, and I'm gonna put some new traction tires on. I still need to clean inside the wheel spokes some. There's lots of dirt and grime in there, but these aren't locked up, which is a good sign. So I think this engine is gonna run, and the grease on here looks pretty clean. So I don't think this thing was used all that much. I'm going to start applying some more grease to this truck, and I'm also going to be cleaning off this front part of the truck as well. There's lots of rust and dirt and corrosion, so hopefully I can get all this looking better. And I put a little bit of oil onto each of the couplers, and I'm letting them soak because I believe there's just dust and corrosion and stuff built up in there, and so the oil will loosen some of that up, and I can open the coupler some and clean out any gunk that's in there. But it's going pretty well, and hopefully in a few minutes here we're going to have a working engine. So I got the chassis all back together, and I've cleaned all the inside of the engine as best as I can. I would have to take it down to bare frame for it to be perfect, but that's not really what I'm looking for. Everything is pretty clean. All the gunk is off the sides. All the wheel rims are polished. It's looking really good. So let's turn on the power here and see what happens. I have not moved the engine yet, so let's see if it'll work now. There we go. Got the sounds turning on. I also redid the couplers, so let's see here. Yep, they look like they're working well. I think this transformer isn't giving quite enough power for them. I think they're still a little sticky, so I'll have to work on those. But there we go. We got some smoke. Let's see if it'll move. And there we go. It's working now, so that's awesome to see. It's working pretty well, actually. I'm watching the cab lights, and they're not actually flickering too much. That means the pickup rollers are doing a pretty good job now. That's awesome. So let me keep cleaning the shell and get it all back together. We can see if these pantographs work now. That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing, is if these pantographs work now. Okay, the engine is all back together. I have the shell back on, the pantographs are all reassembled, and we're going to see if this engine works. Obviously, we know it moves now, the smoke is working, but we have not tried the pantographs yet. And the engine is looking phenomenal now. It'll look even better once it's on the layout with some cars, but I'm really happy with how this is turning out. But let's see if these pantographs work. Oh, look at that. That's good to see. I think this means both pantographs might work. Let's see. Let's start this engine up. I have it as engine 1. Look at that. That's awesome. This is such a cool feature. It's definitely kind of weird, and I definitely am gonna have to mess with it. It sounds like the speaker's rattling a little bit, but I can always readjust that. But this is really cool. That's awesome. This engine was water damaged, and now it's working. Both pantographs were completely rusted. The springs were awful. There were mineral deposits all over the engine. This is amazing. Yeah, look at that. The engine still moves. The speakers are definitely rattling. I can always open the shell back up and readjust that. But this is amazing.
This is Pennsylvania 4876. Are we clear through the next junction? Over. Pennsylvania 4876. Roger that. 4876.
That's awesome. Let me do some readjusting with the speaker so it sounds a little better, but then we'll take it out, hook it up to some cars, and run it around for a little. This is amazing.
Pennsylvania 4876 here. Dispatch, we're looking for outbound track. Over. Pennsylvania 4876.
As you can see, this Lionel JLC GG1 turned out amazing. It was covered in rust, dirt, corrosion, and all kinds of things, and it was in a very sad state. The pantographs barely worked. I don't even think the engine would have moved if I would have tried because of all the rust that was on those pickup rollers. But now I've cleaned it up and it's in operating condition. I can now run it around the layout and it really looks beautiful for what it is. Obviously it's not perfect. There are some scratches and some kind of minor defects in the paint now because it was kind of stored in a weird way, because obviously wherever it was very wet. It probably wasn't in the original box, and so it's not perfect, but it is much better than it was before, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It is truly a beautiful model. Let me know down in the comments what you have to think. Do you have any questions? I'd love to hear what you have to think. But as always, make sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications and smash that like button. I'm Sid, and I'll see you next time, guys.